Lessons from Brianna Chickenfry's relationship with Zach Bryan. My name is Jared Mello, the wizard of radical self-respect and the shepherd of black sheep. I was watching Brianna Chickenfry tell her story about Zach Bryan on the BFFs podcast the other day, and she does an amazing job at breaking it all down. She was super honest and was really courageous in telling her story, and she also turned down $12 million from Zach Bryan's team to share her story because she said what she has to say is valuable and she wants to be able to help other people. And she's shining a spotlight on a pretty important issue right now. So I give her all sorts of credit for that, for turning down the money and being courageous enough to tell her story. That is pretty awesome. But what I learned from her sharing her story was a bunch of things, honestly. One, she had overlooked red flags in the beginning. And this is something that she did, but she acknowledges that she did it. Zach Bryan got a tattoo with her name on it 3 days after meeting her, which in retrospect is a red flag. And she's not quite sure why she ignored it. She was just super into him. Now, she might have a narcissistic parent. I really have no idea, but often people who wind up in that situation did, and they have that core attachment wound with that narcissistic parent. And subconsciously, they're trying to heal that wound by being with someone who is like their narcissistic parent and earning their love. It's one of the reasons why people who are in a trauma bond stay stuck in that trauma bond for a while, because that's subconsciously what they're trying to do, heal that attachment wound. Now, I'm not sure if that was exactly what was going on with her, but it's certainly a possibility. The other thing that was pretty cool about what she did was she took all sorts of accountability as well. She had said she let it happen. And that is something that I wouldn't say to someone who is in stage 1 of healing. But if she wants to take accountability and say that, I am all for people taking a look at their side of the street and trying to see where they can do better and improve, because that's where our power is. Like I said, that's more of a stage 2 of healing thing to do, but if she's willing to do it where she is, more power to her. The other things that stood out to me about her story were the brutal part of the discard that Zach Bryan gave her, where all of a sudden, like, he's future faking her. They're taking pictures and video diaries for their future kids one day. They think they're going to get married. And then out of nowhere, he'll break up with her via text and just be like, boom, we're done. And Brianna's left like, what? What on earth just happened? Where you're getting all of this love bombing, they're future faking, you're building a future together, and then they pull the rug. And it's just devastating. The sudden abruptness of that discard is absolutely abuse. And it's out of control, but it's so typical of someone who is a narcissist that is putting you through the narcissistic cycle of abuse. Love bombing, devaluing, discarding, and then hoovering. But she knows this now for what it is. But that was another thing that stood out to me, that the abruptness of it all. And she's just so confused. She's so confused. And when someone is confused, I just saw Get Your Shift Together on Instagram, who I've interviewed on this channel before. She had a great quote, and she had said, if you are confused, you are being abused. And in this case, it absolutely applies. And her name is Adriana Bucci, in case you were wondering. But I really liked that quote that she had said. But the other part about it is, she was saying how she came to hate the parts of herself that she once loved. And I thought to myself, what is going on when she says that? And what's happening is Zach Bryan wanted to tear down her good qualities because her good qualities began to threaten his power and control over her. Narcissists want to tear people down, tear their self-worth down like sandpaper, because the worse you feel about yourself, the less belief in yourself you have, the easier you are to control and to manipulate. So he was dimming her shine because he wanted the spotlight. He didn't want her to steal any of his shine, so he thought. So he was tearing down all of these qualities in her that were probably the reason why she attracted him to begin with. But it is so typical of a narcissist devaluing phase to belittle the parts of you that they liked before. All of a sudden, the good parts of you are all of a sudden what's wrong with you. And I hear this all the time, but she began to believe it over time. And it's a devastating thing to have happen when you're in the trauma bond and you can see the light in her eyes just dimming and going out. And it's really heartbreaking to see. But that is the pattern that they put you through. And they still have you on edge. And that time that she broke up with him, in this moment when she got discarded by him, it wasn't the first time there was a breakup. Other times before, she was saying on the BFFs podcast, I'm done with him, he's insane, this is ridiculous. But then he said all of the right things, he was hoovering her, and she went back. And her co-hosts, what's his face, Dave Portnoy and Josh, I think the other guy's name is, they're kind of flabbergasted. They don't know what to say. Here she is saying that he's insane and a psycho, and then the next day she's back with him. What can you say in that regard? Because other people I've interviewed here, such as Grace Stewart, I asked her about this when she was on the show before, and she had said, you really just got to be supportive, because when they're in that spot, there's not much you can say to them. You can try to tell them, no, this person's terrible for you, you should leave. But the more you do that, often the more they're going to defend their abuser. So it's really a tough spot. You still have to have your own boundaries if someone you know is being abused. But at the same point, you got to be truthful, I think, but you can't go too hard on it either, because that also becomes a problem. But this is what happens here. It's tough. But I shared this part of it because it can take on average 7 times to leave a toxic relationship with a narcissist. So if you go back and you catch yourself going back, don't beat yourself up about it, because that absolutely does happen. But overall, it took that brutal discard for the thing to really end. And another thing that stood out to me as she was sharing at the end of it was he would take her phone and smash her phone. And what is this about? This is about control. And another aspect of control, her friends or other people might record him, apparently, probably because he's famous, but then he would come up to her and be filming her out of nowhere and say things like, oh, I'm filming you, is that okay? Because your friends film me. So here he is being childish and throwing it in her face what other people do because he's famous. He would also control who she was allowed to sing in the car. He is apparently very competitive with other people that are supposed to be his so-called friends, but he is jealous on the inside and he wants to control her and everything about her. And again, if you're a woman, I bet you can really relate to all of this. Chances are there was physical abuse in play too, because that is a lot of times what happens when they take your phone. Why do they do that? It's because they don't want you to call for help or to call the police. And rather be able to do that, they'll smash your phone. They'll throw your phone out of a moving car. Anything to not let you reach out for help. This unfortunately happened to one of my friends too, and I'm going to have her on the show at some point too to share her story, because as Brianna was sharing her story, it reminded me a lot of my friend's story as well. But overall, she's out now. She's out, and she's refused this $12 million, which is incredible, because it takes a lot of courage and principles too, which is so rare in this day and age to not take the money. Everyone takes the money these days, but she didn't. So that really deserves a round of applause to me. I might try to get her on the show too. I don't know if I'm big enough to do that, but it's worth a shot perhaps, because, hey, her story is so relatable to a lot of the people who follow me. Like, I understand this dynamic from like a family perspective and a narcissistic female's perspective, but it is a little different when it's the male abuser in a romantic relationship. That is a little bit different, but she went through it. The control, the isolation, the loneliness, because he did try to isolate her from everyone too. He was telling her that, oh, you're better than Barstool. You're better than this. And he didn't want her to do what she was doing to support herself and chase her dreams. He wanted her all to himself. And she even said, I didn't want to be, or she was almost that girl. And what she means by that is someone that gives up on all of their dreams and their work and is just the girlfriend or wife. I mean, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but when you're with a narcissist, then there is something wrong with that, because they want you to do that for all of the wrong reasons, which that's exactly what it was. But overall, a very chaotic situation in this regard, but she did find a way out. And she's been able to share her story with all of this too. And the other part about it is, with the isolation part, again, they do not want you to fulfill your own dreams. They want to isolate you, they want to tear you down, and they want to keep you feeling badly about yourself. And he did all of these trademark things. The trademark things that you see a narcissist do is what he did. And also other things, other sneaky things that he did here. So he broke up with her, and there's this dating app called Raya, which is for celebrities and other popular people. The day they break up, he doesn't even say anything to her publicly or anything. He just goes on that dating app. And she says a classic line. She says something like, you don't need Raya, you need therapy, which is, of course. But will he get therapy? Most likely not. And he also had addiction issues too. So that was another element to the story here as well. Also very common in abusive relationships. But when she called him out for being on that dating app, he had said, oh, I didn't create a dating profile. I just reactivated a dating profile. Which again, is an example of something crazy making to say. It's the same thing. You are on a dating app again. You did it instantly. And you're famous. You're Zach Bryan. You know what's going to happen if you do that. But did he care? No. Why don't they care? Lack of empathy. And they're selfish. That's really what it's about. But overall, it's been a wild ride for her. And I'm so happy for her that she's been able to get out. I'm sure she's in a lot of pain now, and more will be revealed to her as time goes on. She might think she knows the whole story right now, but that's usually not how it goes. Usually there will be layers of the onion that get unraveled as time goes on. And maybe 6 months from now, there will be other revelations that come up in her head. And then a year from now, she'll get more, 2 years, etc., etc. But that's how it was for me too. I thought I knew it all in the beginning, but as time went down, I was like, oh wow. That's what happened. Or, oh, wow, that's what that really meant. Or, oh, wow, she was cheating way more than I thought she was. And, oh, she was lying way more than I thought she was, too. And chances are she's going to have some of those same revelations. And how it is in the beginning, when you're at first discarded, and what you know of, it is probably just the tip of the iceberg. And what you see is only a part of the big picture. Chances are you don't even want to know what the whole picture is anyway, because it always reminds me of what Yoda would say, if into the phone you go, only pain will you find. And it's true. What you know of the narcissist, you probably don't even want to know much more, because it's just going to give you pain if you knew the truth. But that pain is good to the extent that it keeps you away. That's the bottom line with it all. And you also have to understand it was fake. The love bombing was fake. It was a mirage. It was future faking. And that also helped me to see through it, that the whole thing was a mirage. It wasn't real. The person I fell in love with was not the person I thought they were. And I think this is a realization that Brianna is coming to here too. Zach Bryan is not the person that she thought he was. And that may make it easier for her too. But hopefully she's no contact now. Probably is after that turned down $12 million. But hopefully she's no contact. And if she is, one day at a time, it will get a little better and a little better and a little better, and more will be revealed. And you'll probably have some good days. You'll probably have some bad days. You may be tempted to reach out to him. But understand that is all normal and part of the trauma bond healing process. And again, she's not alone. If some of you want to reach out to her and offer her your support, I bet you she would appreciate that, just so she knows that what she did was appreciated. She turned down $12 million to share her story. And who doesn't want more support and encouragement? Anyone could use some of that. So I've reached out to her and I said that. Will I get a response? Probably not. But I think it's good to send good vibes out to the universe as well. But if you got this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it. Share this video with someone that you think might benefit. And comment below if you have an experience like this too. Did an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend of yours do things similar? How did they try to control you? Was there a brutal discard? Tell us about it in the comments. I'm sure a lot of people will be able to identify with it. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.